You never want to go into like a Zoom call, phone call, in person, like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day going? How's the weather over there in Dallas? Oh yeah, I love Dallas. Listen, your prospect does not give a fuck. So if I'm getting on Zoom, let's say I'm selling your stuff, like funnels. Looks like you booked on the calendar about getting outside help with like building funnels so you could really grow the business, right? Right, they're gonna be, right. See, I'm getting automatically into results-based thinking rather than price or cost-based thinking. So I'm telling them, looks like you're doing this so that you can, and I repeat back the end result. So right off the bat, I'm getting them into
because I make that first mistake. Hey, how you doing? How's the weather?
Yeah, you can't do that anymore, Shaq.
Okay, no more.
Yeah, no more.
Let me ask you this. What are the mistakes, salespeople make, or even just like people make? Because like everyone, if you say to someone, do you want to make money?
Yeah.
Everyone says, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to sell stuff? No way. I don't like selling.
Yeah.
So like, talk to me about that.
It's the way selling is perceived in society, right? So as society in large, how are salespeople typically perceived? At a much lower status. Even if you're a wealthy salesperson, the average, anybody in America or Europe or anywhere, still view you as a much lower status. Now, why is that? Why does society view salespeople at a lower status? Well, I can tell you why. It's because of the way you've been forced to sell to them, like the skills you've learned, because most salespeople have been taught that selling is adversarial. You against the prospect, trying to win them over, trying to manipulate them so you can make money. Now, of course, if society views salespeople that that's how you are to them, of course they're gonna view you as like, stay away from me, low status, I need to protect myself. But if you started viewing selling as more collaborating with the prospect, helping them find and solve problems that maybe they didn't understand they have, and then helping them get where they really want to be, selling becomes really easy. And most people will actually thank you at the end of the day, right? Like, it's like you're getting them to thank you for you allowing them to give you money to solve their problems and get them to the results they want. And that's really how selling really is if you're really good at it, right? And so that's what we train salespeople is we teach you how to get your prospects to do all the work, whereas traditional selling would probably teach you how to do all the work. On the flip side, we teach you how to get your prospects to sell themselves. Traditional selling would teach you that you got to sell them. We teach you how to get them to overcome their own objections, whereas in traditional selling, you're throwing out rebuttals, more resistance, more objections, and then we're teaching you how to get the prospects to pull you in, work with human behavior, rather than push and pressure. And so when you learn those things, selling becomes pretty easy and pretty fun, where you actually really like to be in sales.
I love it, dude. And for people watching this, right? When you are doing sales trainings and someone wants to get into sales and someone wants the easy script, right? Yeah. Like in marketing, they just want a funnel, or they think like, if I get a funnel, I'm one funnel away, I'm just going to reach. But the truth is you have to understand copywriting, sales, traffic generation. You have to understand how to create ads that effectively communicate.
Yeah.
What do you think is the missing link for salespeople that they don't get it?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that salespeople don't learn, because, a lot of times, salespeople or companies come to us like, hey, can you just write us a script? I'm like, I can, but how would you know how to use this script? Well, what do you mean? I just asked the questions. Okay, but what if the prospect asks or says something and takes you off script? What are you going to do then? Or it's not necessarily the question, but it's how you're asking the question. Because if you sound scripted, if you're like, asking the questions, but you sound scripted with your tone, your prospects, you're going to notice you're going to ask good questions, but they're going to give you vague, generalized, surface level answers. They don't emotionally open up and go below the surface. And then at the end, what objection are you going to get? I want to think it over. I want to talk to my spouse. I need to keep looking around. I'm not sure it's the right time. I need to do more research, even though they have problems that your solution solves. So the missing link is how you're asking the question. So in our sales training, besides showing them how to ask the right questions for their industry at the right time, most importantly, we teach how to use your tone to get the prospect to let their guard down and open up emotionally and trust you. Because there are certain questions that require more of a curious tone. let's say if I sold like for a marketing agency, for example, like maybe, walk me through it. What are you guys doing now to generate new leads and clients? That's a curious tone. My curious tone communicates to the prospect that I'm genuinely curious about what I'm asking. I'm not saying, walk me through, what do you guys do now to generate new leads and clients? Sounds more scripted. There's other questions that are going to require more of a confused tone. Let's say if I want them to open up emotionally and they say, this XYZ, let's say if I'm selling funnels, I'm having a lot of issues with our funnels lately. But hold on, how do you mean by issues? See, that's a confused tone, okay? I'm probing. Oh, hold on, how do you mean by issues? That's an emotional word, issues, right? I want to probe about that, but my tone is a confused tone, which causes the prospect to clarify what he meant by issues and to go below the surface. Now, if I don't use a confused tone there, he's not going to necessarily open up. He's going to stay surface level, okay? There's other questions that are going to require more of a challenging or skeptical tone. Let's say if they're like, they want to do funnels. For example, let's just stay on the funnels. And let's say, give me a problem that maybe one of your clients would have, like a massive problem, what and the consequence?
They don't know which funnel. They basically think that if they just copy someone else's funnel, hey, I want to be a sales trainer, I'm just going to copy Jeremy's funnel. But I copied Jeremy's funnel, but they're not making any money. It's like,
so what happens if you don't do anything about this and you keep getting these lower quality leads? How would you be able to scale to $5 million a month? See, that's a challenging tone. I'm pushing them back. This is 3/4 of the way in the conversation. I'm almost pushing them away where they pull me back in, where they defend themselves on why they need to change, right? See, I'm getting them to defend themselves on why they have to change now. Builds urgency. There's other questions that are going to require more of a concern tone. So I might lean in. I'm going to put my hand on my chest because this, if they can see you, signifies that you're concerned, and it actually affects how your tone comes across. And I might lean in and say, John, what's really holding you back from moving forward? What's really holding you back from moving forward so you can get a higher quality lead to build the business? See, I'm concerned for them. So my prospect feels I'm concerned for them, so they are more than likely to emotionally open up, and it builds trust. Trust is king in sales. Like there's this old myth, and it comes from a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, where he talks about you got to get, people buy from people they like. The problem is that book was written in 1936. We're in 2023. People buy from people who they trust can get them the best result. If they like you, that's just a bonus. You love grandma, but you're not necessarily buying from grandma if she builds funnels compared to Shaq building funnels, because you don't know Shaq that much, but you trust Shaq can get you a much bigger result than grandma, even though you love grandma. See, people don't buy from people they like, they buy from people who they trust can get them the best result. And if they like you, it's just a bonus, but that's not why they buy. Now, in 1936, you bought from your neighbor who owned the butcher store, right? Because that's how you bought, like that's how it's communicated. But there's so many options, so many marketing messages, so many sales messages out there. You love your best friend Bob who owns a hardware store, but you're buying your screwdrivers from Amazon because Amazon gets you a better result. You might not love Jeffrey Bezos, but you're still buying from Amazon because they get you a better result.
Don't you just love listening to Jeremy? The tone, the inflection points, everything. I guess it took you 23 years to learn this, right? Yeah. And you've
still learning.
Still learning, you're always a student. You've created the methodology of NEPQ, right? For people watching this, like, what the heck is NEPQ?
Yeah, so my background in college is behavioral science, human psychology, and social dynamics. Social dynamics is really the study of how society makes decisions. Behavioral science, I'm not going to give you the scientific term, but what I really studied is how does the brain make decisions? Why does the brain say no compared to say yes? Why does it go left instead of going right by just seeing a sign that says go left? Like what triggers in the brain to do that? What triggers in the brain to put their guard up? So as a salesperson, I'm learning all this while I'm in college, right? I took courses from like Robert Cialdini when I was in college. That was online when online universities started coming out. So I was going to school, plus taking all these online courses on psychology, different things, and I was understanding how the brain works. And so that's when I started learning how to use my tone to cause the prospect to let their guard down instead of going into fight or flight mode. So I'll give you an example. So you ever get a call from like a telemarketer and in the first 10 seconds you're like, not interested?
Yeah.
And you ever hang up the phone and you don't even really know what they said?
Yeah.
You know why?
Why?
Because your brain hears their tone first before you hear their words. Does that make
Tone
sense?
first.
See, here's your tone. So there's 3 parts of your brain.
Okay.
There's a lot of people call it like the survival brain or your reptilian brain. Okay. The second part of your brain, a lot of people call that the midbrain. There's other names. Just say the midbrain. And then the third part is your neocortex, problem solving. Okay. So let's say if I'm at a grocery store, I'm walking in the grocery store and I hear somebody scream, like a lady just yell. Okay. First of all, that's going into your survival part of your brain. So you react. You're like, am I okay? Like if somebody's shooting, is something happening? You react. You haven't heard the word yet. So instantly you react. And then within like a split second, that goes into your midbrain where you start to interpret the words you just said. And then in a split second, it goes into your neocortex and you're like, oh, it's just a lady yelling at her son not to cross the street. I'm okay. That's the process. But you react first from the tone. That sets it apart. So if your tone comes across salesy on a call or even Zoom or in person, if it comes across salesy, if it comes across too excited, like salespeople do, if it comes across, let's say, attached, if it comes across scripted, what that does is it triggers the prospect very quickly to react, right? To react and like, oh, I'm not interested. Or like if you get on a Zoom, like, hey, how are you doing today? How's it going? It's cheesy questions like that. You're going to notice people are like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good, because they're used to every salesperson saying the same thing, right? And
What's a good opener?
Well, like on the phone or on Zoom?
On Zoom. On Zoom, they can see.
Yeah. So on Zoom, I would.
What's your best opener?
You never want to go into, and I'll show you what not to do, then I'm going to show you what to do. You never want to go into like a Zoom call, phone call, in person, like, hey, how you doing today? How's your day going? How's the weather over there in Dallas? Oh yeah, I love Dallas. I went there 10 years. Because your prospect does not genuinely believe that you really give a damn about how their day's going. And why do they not believe that? Because they're used to every salesperson that's ever tried to sell them anything asking them that type of question over. So they associate you with everybody else that's ever said that, which they don't like salespeople in general. So now you put yourself in that camp. Now, I'm not talking about the laydowns, but most of the people you're talking to, that's going to how they're interpreting it. Basically, what they're interpreting when you say that is, I'm just trying to get you to like me so I can sell you my product or service, when you ask those type of questions. So if I'm getting on Zoom, I might look down at, like, let's say a document or whatever. It depends on what you sell. Let's say I'm selling your stuff, like funnels. Okay, so let's say I have an application form that here's their business. Okay, so can you hear me? Okay, can you see me? Okay, good. Now, hey, it looks like you booked on the calendar about maybe getting outside help with like building funnels so you could really grow the business, right? See, I'm getting them, I'm just making that up. I'm getting them to results-based thinking. So it looks like you had booked on the calendar to, maybe get outside help in like scaling your ads and like your funnel so you can really grow the business, right? Right, they're gonna be right. See, I'm getting automatically into results-based thinking rather than price or cost-based thinking. So I'm telling them, looks like you're doing this so that you can, and I repeat back the end result. So right off the bat, I'm getting them into
because I make that first mistake. Hey, how you doing? How's the weather?
Yeah. You can't do that anymore, Shaq.
Okay, no more.
Yeah, no more.
Right, but anyone books a sales call with me, that's exactly what I'm going to say. Let's go straight to the result. That was so elegantly said.
Yeah.
This is also the stuff that you teach in your sales training.
Yeah.
I haven't been through sales training in a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe I should pick up some courses.
Well, there you go. Maybe you should pick up some courses. There you go. We got 36 now or something.
Okay. Like right now, you're basically the hottest sales trainer around.
I have no idea.
People
tell me that. I'm
basically
like,
you're
okay.
one, there's another dude around, but basically more people, you impact a lot more people. So you're doing a very good job. I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy for you.
We try our best.
Genuinely, as a friend, as a brother. Why do you think others that have got 50 years of sales experience, how comes they haven't made that impact? And what I'm trying to ask is, why has your message hit? Everyone's selling sales training, right?
Yeah,
There's so many sales trainers out there. Why did your message hit?
I think I spoke to what salespeople always knew, but they weren't being trained. they weren't being taught. I think deep down as a human being, you want to have connection. You don't want to get rejected all the time. You don't want to have tons of objections. Most people can't go through that day in and day out and not burn out. So I really feel that our message around, old model of selling, new model of selling, how to work with human behavior rather than work against it, has really generated a little bit of buzz. And I think a lot of people get results even from our free stuff. So that really spreads around. Last year when we were here, I bet you I talked to at least 300-400 people that were following us, and we had some clients here. But this year, it's like we probably have 300 or 400 clients that I've talked to that are just clients, not alone, just followers. So I think a lot of times people follow and they start getting results and they start telling everybody else, and then it just kind of spreads. Yeah. I always, it's that one saying, and I don't know if Steve Martin, the actor, invented that. I always see it on the internet. I don't know if he said it or somebody else, or if it's just a meme. But in my mind, even as a kid, I felt like I always had to prove myself in sports because I wasn't the most athletic on the team. I was athletic, wasn't the most talented, but I just learned, I outlearned everybody else and I outworked everybody else to obtain really good, for my body type, really success in sports and baseball and football. And so I took that into sales training. And from a very early age, I'm like, I'm just going to outlearn everybody. I always knew, like, if I could learn these skills, that I'm more dedicated and committed than 99.9% of other salespeople out there I was competing with, that I would simply outlearn them. And so I think it's resonated with a marketplace that, because what we train is far different than what anybody else is really training. Now I have a few friends that are really good sales trainers, by the way, and we collaborate, really good, amazing sales trainers. But for the most part, most people are still doing rehashed material that was taught in the 1940s, 1960s, 1980s, like boiler room style, or repackaged as consultative selling, which sounds pretty scripted. And we kind of came in with probably a much newer angle. So it's worked out good.